Well, hello everyone. My name is Tyler Lawrence. I'm the chair of the Families and Health Special Interest Group. And today we have a joint Pediatrics Special Interest Group and Families and Health Special Interest Group presentation. It is entitled A Game Changer, Play-Based Interventions for Behavioral Health Clinicians in Pediatric Settings. I'll give them both a brief introduction. Chus, also goes by Maria Jesus Arrojo, earned her master's degree in psychology from the Universidad Complutense de Madrid in Spain and holds her certificate of advanced studies in marriage and family therapy from Springfield College in Massachusetts. She has worked extensively with diverse and underserved communities throughout Western Massachusetts, providing direct care, training, and supervision to interns and clinicians in a variety of settings. Maria currently holds a behavioral health integration senior manager position at the Pediatric Physicians Organization at Children's. She loves the sea and is curious about the human mind. We also have Susan Pfau. She's an LMFT and a registered play therapist, and she is a behavioral health predoctoral intern at St. John's Hospital Family Medicine Residency. Her career goals are to provide behavioral health for patients across their lifespan in an integrated medical setting in the Twin Cities, supervise LMFTs pursuing licensure, and become a faculty member at a higher education institution. Susan specializes in the diagnosis and management of mental health conditions in early childhood, ages 0 to 5, and pediatrics. She's currently pursuing a PhD in medical family therapy at North Central University. So without further ado, we'll turn it over to Susan and Chus.
Thank you, Taylor, for the introduction and for organizing this collaboration between the Peds SIG and the Families in Health SIG. And hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to play with us today. I hope, Susan and I hope you enjoy the presentation. So for starters, just truly play can be a game changer. And I have a question for you, to all participants. Can you put on the chat, do you remember your first game? What was that? What did you play first in your lives? I see you thinking, Tyler. All right. Tag, maybe? Others? Feel free to unmute if you don't want to type. Board game called Sorry. Candyland. Anyone else wants to respond? All right. Dolls. Yes. Who else? All right. Keep the answers coming. So I think obviously none of us remember what we play first, and because that was likely to happen at a moment that we don't have conscious about. Play starts shortly after birth, during infancy, and it happens in playful interactions with the caregivers. Also action-reaction games, discovery games, the classic peekaboo, and it evolves in time for taking turn games, following instruction games, pretend play, which is part of the sociodramatic play options, and also the storytelling. It never stops. So play enhances brain function and promotes executive function. We know it fosters curiosity, engages memory, learning, and also facilitates language development. But when are children engaged in learning through play? Is any play a learning experience? It looks like children are engaged in learning through play when an activity is experienced as joyful. It helps children find meaning in what they are doing, in the game they are playing. It involves active, engaged minds-on thinking, iterative thinking, like experimentation, hypothesis testing, and it involves social interactions, playing with others. it looks like it contributes to self-regulation and also problem-solving and empathy. Is the way children are in the world, trying to master their environments, understand them, understand the demands that the environments are making on them, but also their way to come with creative solutions to cope with those demands. So it is helpful for coping with stress, expressing emotions, and taking others' perspective as well. It has a key role in supporting resilience building, overcome adversity, threats to our well-being. In fact, it looks like children recognize and name play as one of their strategies to reduce negative emotions and stress. We cannot omit naming the role of the adults. We know that in order to build resilience, we need safe interactions with adults. We need an adult in the relationship that kids could trust, and also is a secure attachment. So engaging with children when they are playing spontaneously, as long as it's through supportive relationships, is going to build them help them build attachment, impulse control, and this ability to adapt to challenges, but also interpersonal effectiveness. Again, safe and supportive, nurturing relationships are recognized as a buffer for ACEs, a protective factor for that. So we could think of promoting activities, playful activities across contexts. We often say and think these days that kids don't have enough opportunities to play, and perhaps cities and other contexts are not built in a way that promotes these playful activities, with the research indicating how important it is for the self-regulation, the interpersonal relationships, and the brain building. It would be important that we build our waiting rooms in our pediatric offices in ways that foster this play activities, but also advocating for spaces in the community in which this could happen. An example of this is Humanitarian Play Lab in Bangladesh with refugees from the Rohingya community. They call it Bragg's Humanitarian Play Lab, and it promotes healing through culturally rooted play. So this is a very interesting experiment on how to build resilience in children that are in fragile settings, with an emphasis on early childhood and self-regulation. It could be replicated in other places. But what is the application of all this in pediatric primary care? There are some papers addressing the power of play in pediatric settings. It looks like the promotion of reading and play during pediatric visits leads to enhancement in socio-emotional development. So this is kind of an expansion of what it used to be the promotion of reading, and now goes to further than that to include play. I love this quote from one of these papers. Pediatricians have a critical role to play in protecting the integrity of childhood by advocating for all children to have the opportunity to express their innate curiosity in the world and their great capacity for imagination. This paper includes peer recommendations from pediatricians to parents. So I thought this could be helpful for all of you who are working in pediatric settings. What can you do to support your pediatricians with these recommendations? It has recommendations from 0 to 6, 7 to 12 months, 1 to 3 years, and so on. Something else we can do in pediatric population health approaches is utilizing some web-based programs that could foster playful interactions between children and caregivers. There is this program called the Basics that has the ability for parents to register to receive text messages entering the age of their baby, and they receive weekly text messages about some basic principles of development that include playful activities with babies. And typically you get a couple of messages a week. One is about the principle, and the other one is what activities can you do to support the healthy development of your baby, but also emphasizing aspects such as stress, parental stress, and helping parents understand that some of the behaviors of the kids are not intended to bother them or stress them, but are part of their development, including some steps back that kids might take before launching a next developmental period. These are the basic principles of this program. Maximize love, manage stress, talk, sing, and point, count, compare, group and compare, explore through movement and play, and read and discuss stories. Beyond that, the population health approaches and anticipatory guidance, we also know that there is a positive impact of child-centered play therapy on health-related quality of life when there is pediatric chronic illnesses. It also is known that play therapy can improve both internalizing and externalizing symptoms for children with chronic medical conditions. In regards to the medical trauma, there is this fantastic program for medical procedures. And in the Meg Foundation website, it has interactive games. It also has poke plans for fear of needle phobias that you can download and kids can have and parents can have on their phones. And this can be incorporated into your vaccination appointments or your pediatric practices or family clinics. And it could be part of the vaccine clinics that you can develop as a trauma-informed behavioral health approach to vaccinations or other medical procedures. And also future directions for research could be cultural dimensions of playful approaches to address needs for children from different backgrounds. Also take valid and reliable measures of play-related coping strategies. Research the possible effects that play interactions have on adults. Prioritizing play as a way of learning, and very importantly for our context, what is the relationship between play and health beyond what is already known about the immune system and other things that we mentioned at the beginning in terms of brain development and coping with stress. So with all this, I'm going to leave you with Susan, who is going to dive into play therapy interventions that you can use in your integrated settings.
All righty. Thank you. Thanks for giving all that great information about play therapy. Let me pull up my slides real quick. And I have to send a request. You got to approve me to share, whoever's the host. Okay, granted. All right, here we go. Let's see if we can pull this up for you guys to see. Give me just a second. All righty. Oops. Hold on one second. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to talk about some different play therapy activities that you can do in a clinical setting. And I'm going to just talk to you a little bit about a couple different things about play therapy. So they're evidence-based treatments, and in play therapy, you can do play therapy, which here's the organization, the International Organization for Play Therapy there. And there is what we call direct and non-direct in play therapy. And so non-direct is led by the child. It's child-centered. And so if the child's coming in, they choose what activities they're going to do. And they might work out their trauma or different things that are going on in their life, causing them some different stressors or different emotional things. Direct is going to be where the therapist directing whatever the activity is. It could be a game or different things that they're going to work on, skills or something. Theraplay, I'm also trained in Theraplay, and Theraplay is a parent-child intervention that you can use also. So I'm going to go a little bit more detail in this. So on the play therapy, it's really looking at the systemic use of theoretical model. And so play is how children communicate. So that's why the power of play is so important when you're working with children, because that is their language, is play. And so you can observe and also, like I said, lead and direct them with using play therapy. Theraplay is used by practice.
Would you be able to share the full screen? Hit slideshow in the top right corner.
Oh, shoot. Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Now I don't have my speaker notes. Shoot. Okay. Alrighty. So with play therapy, it's as I said, it's a parent-child, so it's a didactic type intervention that you're going to use. And so what it's doing is building a stronger attachment with the caregiver. It's a positive attachment. And so the activities are where they're doing it together and the therapist is guiding them or demonstrating what the activity is going to be. And so by building a stronger attachment, that can carry the child really through the rest of their life and as they build relationships. So that is the foundation really of Theraplay. Okay. So some of the activities that you can do with the play therapy, I'll start first with adolescents, as that's 12 to 18-year-olds. So I always ask people if they've watched the movie Inside Out. The nice thing about Inside Out, it talks about the emotions and they put colors to all the emotions. And so a lot of games or drawing or things that you do with children, you can go back to that movie that most likely they've seen. A lot of schools also show it too, because it's a really great learning movie about your emotions and how they work. Some examples would be like using Uno for a teenager, and as you put down a certain color that could then correlate with the movie. So yellow is joy in the movie, blue is sadness. And so you can say, okay, so we're going to play Uno with a twist. And so every time you put down a yellow card, you're going to share with me an experience that you had that you were happy. And then you could do whatever. So you can pick whatever emotion that you're going to do and have the kiddo do that. Another activity is the tree, which I did not get an example, so I'm just going to show you mine here. So you have a tree, and the tree has all different parts. And so you have them fill out the tree. So an example would be the ground underneath the tree is, they're going to talk about, things that they need, basic things that they kind of need in their life to help them. You might have the storm at the top, things that are struggles for you in your life. So they'll just fill out different parts of the trees, like the roots will be who are your support people in your life. And so they would draw the tree and then list those things underneath the different categories. And then you can have some discussion with them about, where that comes from or getting some more insight to them. Another thing with teenagers you can do, there's also body image. There's different sheets you can use with body image, and that's really about, what are those negative beliefs that they have and what would be the positive belief, and helping them really identify what's a positive belief when it comes around body image. Hand is It takes a lot of hands in our life to help us growing up. So when I have kiddos, I'll just show you my little thing here. When I have kids first come to me, I have them color a hand. And so I have a whole hands on the wall. And because that's about, you have a lot of hands in your life, they're going to help you. So we just keep growing the hands on the wall as the kiddos come. All righty. Wait a second. Let me go back. Okay. And then Theraplay activities for that parent-child positive at that age is they can mirror funny faces. You make a face, the child makes a face, and you do that with the parent-child. A hand squeeze would be kind of creating a handshake. So they might squeeze it, you know, squeeze your hand 1, 2, 3. Now you repeat that. And so they repeat what you're doing. Mirroring of hands is where both people put their hands facing each other. Excuse, I have some bad fingers and they won't stand up. So you'll have like the parent's hand, the child's hand, they'll do it close, and then the parent moves their hand and the child has to follow that. So they're mirroring what the parent is doing. And that can be done really with any age group. So again, that is building that positive attachment with the child and parent. Okay. All right. So we're going to do this activity that's called the magic key. And so what I need you to do is take out a piece of paper and so imagine that you enter into this castle, this huge, beautiful castle here. And so you're walking around the castle and you're trying to decide which room to go in and what key you're going to need. So I'm going to give you a little description on what you're going to draw here, okay? So imagine that you've been giving a magic key. So all of you are going to participate in this. So draw your magic key, and that opens one room in a huge castle. There are 4 floors in the castle, and since the castle is huge, there are many rooms on each floor. But the magic key only opens up one of many floored rooms. Trying your magic key in each door until you finally come to the door that your key opens. You turn the key and the lock opens. Because you've been given a magic key that only opens this door, what you see is the one thing that money can't buy, that you always thought would make you happy. So what you need to do right now is take a minute and just kind of draw, either write down, you know, what do you see when you walk into that room? So what do you see when you walk into that room and you find what will make you happy and money can't buy it? So what can make you happy? So put in the chat for me, if you don't mind, just a couple of things that would make you happy. And draw anything that you might see in that magic room. One thing that's been missing that you think would make you happy. When you have a clear picture of it, you can draw it. So once you get it drawn, you can either hold up your drawing or your list or put just a couple of keywords in the chat so we can kind of share. Okay, everybody done drawing and we're making a list. So, okay, family members, okay. Oh, we've got some good ones, okay. Poverty, things like that, nice. Anything else? Relationship growth, nice. Okay, all righty. So that's an activity that you can do with, like I said, 12 to 18-year-olds. You could even do it with adults too. And just really opens up discussion and understanding, you know, what they're feeling is missing in their life, and being able to do it in a different creative way than talk therapy by having them draw and imagine something. Okay. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right. So then Theraplay for grade school. So, so kids that a lot of times come to you and the parents are like, they get so dysregulated at school, they're jumping on the furniture or running around the classroom. And so again, with Theraplay, we're trying to build that parent-child attachment. And so here's some different things that you could just have in the therapy room that can kind of help you with the parent-child. So lotion is one thing, and any of these activities, I encourage parents to do them at home also, because they want to always be working and continuing that positive attachment. So with lotion, you know, they just kind of, the parent just rubs the lotion on the kid's hands. And there's also a game I play that's called Slippery Arms. So the parent puts lots of lotions in their hand, and then they take the child's arm and they just slide it out. They tell the kid, pull your arm out really hard. Pull it as hard as you can. And so you keep doing that kind of game, and you put some lotion on, and then sometimes the child would do to the parent slippery arms and just pull it out as hard as you can. You can do that with shaving cream also. So those are a couple of things for the slippery arms. The powder is sometimes I've had kiddos come in that feel like, I don't know if I'm part of my family. And so we'll put some powder on their hands. So then it'll show the creases in their hands, you know, all the lines. And so then the parent can kind of trace those lines. So again, you're using touch and building on that connection. And so they're looking at all the lines on their palm of their hands. And so they can look at the parent's lines on their hand, and then they can look at the child's lines on their hand. Another thing they can do with the powder is if you have color paper, they can put it down on the color paper and it'll have a handprint with the lines. And so they can look at that too. They can also do a footprint with that too. So that is, you know, with those materials, and that's underneath with Theraplay, the nurturing part. Theraplay has 4 parts. And so with nurturing, that's a nurturing one. The next thing that I also do is I have pillows. And so I will have them put a cotton ball on the pillow. And so they'll blow the cotton ball back and forth. So the parent child can blow it back and forth. Or, you know, if you've got a table, they can like play kind of like hockey, you know, where the cotton goes back and forth. And then the thing, you can throw it away when you're done. Another thing is I get a pack of feathers, and I'll do the same thing. I'll put the feather on the pillow, and then they blow that back and forth. Okay. And then again, they're not expensive. You can dispose them, you know, if you're worried about, you know, making sure you keep the area clean and stuff. So that is also a nurturing activity, the pillow or feathers. Another thing with the cotton balls is that you can have the kid close their eyes and they put it somewhere on them, and you say, okay, can you find where I put the cotton ball? And so you kind of like hide the cotton ball. And so that's another one for working with nurturing. Peekaboo is a more structured activity. So again, your typical peekaboo, or you could use a pillow or something like that. And that's a structured activity with kiddos. Bubbles, I love bubbles. I buy these cases on Amazon I think I get 48 of these little wedding bubbles. And you have a kid that's upset, crying, you know, these are the best things. Oops, I can't even blow them today. Lots of bubbles. So we're always blowing bubbles, and I usually have some bubbles in my pocket. So when I get called in with the physicians, I blow bubbles. The other thing that bubbles do, they're these kind of bubbles that come in scents. So this is like a strawberry scent one that you can again buy by the case on Amazon. And so this teaches kids about breathing and helping with that regulation. So because it smells like strawberries, I'll say, okay, let's smell the bubbles. So breathing in, and I'll say that breathing in, we smell the bubbles, and then we blowing out the bubbles. And so they'll practice that breathing. And a lot of times these little ones I'll give to the parents and say, take them home so that they can work at it home if they don't have bubbles. With our demographics, this works good because a lot of them don't have bubbles at home. And so that's another way to make them aware of breathing and teaching kids about breathing in and out. Clapping hands. That's kind of like the handshake that we did in the teens where they're imitating. So they'll go Now you imitate me, okay? So I'm gonna have you guys do that. I'm gonna do a clap, and then I want you to imitate my clap, okay? Good job. And so you have the parent do that, and then you get the child a chance to do that too. As I said, you have a special handshake they can create. So that's underneath the challenge, because that's a challenge, creating a special handshake. And so that is another activity. And all of these can help with kids that have regulation disorder. So these activities are really good for kids that are struggling with that. We get to kids that have autism. There's some Theraplay activities you can do with them, because those are kind of tricky sometimes. I have some littles that are 3 and 4 years old. They don't have verbal skills. And so we're trying to, again, build that attachment, and the parents are struggling with how to work with their kids. So stacking hands, you probably did that as a kid. And so you can do that. Again, you're getting that touch, and they're working together. The cotton ball, as I talked about earlier, is a good one also for that kid. They can watch it, and they can do back and forth. Some kids with autism, they're not going to tolerate the touch, so the lotion may work or may not work. So being aware of that. Peekaboo is another one. And then peanut butter jelly, which we're going to practice that in just a second. That's a great activity. It's a nurturing activity with kids. And then a lot of times at the end of the session, if you're in a setting that you can have some food and ask the parents what's okay, is feeding the child. And so they might be, a few M&Ms, or maybe it's a cracker or something. So I would have the child actually sit in the parent's lap or right next to them, and then they would actually feed them like a bird or something. You're just feeding them. And so the child does say next when they're ready to have the next treat. And so if you're able to do that. The bean bags are great, again, for autism kids, but all sorts of kids. So they'll pile a bean bag on their head, and then they'll pile another one and another one. So you can do that. The other thing you can do with beanbag, you put one on your head, and you tip your head, and you do it into mom's lap. So you're facing the caregiver, and you drop the beanbag in their lap. And then they do it back to the caregiver. So again, it's building that connection between the two of them and the attachment between the two of them. Okay, so mirroring activities, as I talked about earlier, that is, we already did the clapping. And so now we're going to do the peanut butter jelly. So what happens with that is the parent will say peanut butter and the child will say jelly. And they'll use the same tone of voice or same volume of voice as the parent, because they're, again, it's a mirroring activity. So I'm going to do this with you guys. You have to say jelly. So you got to turn your speakers on. I know you guys have them all off, but if you turn them on for a second. So I'm going to say jelly, and you got to, peanut butter, and you say jelly like I said peanut butter. And we'll do 2 of them. So peanut butter, peanut butter.
Jelly.
Peanut butter.
Jelly.
Jelly. Perfect. Love it. Love it. So you can put your put back on silent again. Anyway, so you see it's just the 2 of them, just like us, back and forth. So doing that again, it's that mirroring, connecting with the parent. Okay, so as I was kind of talking to you about, I wanted to show you some activities first, and then kind of break down a little bit about how Theraplay is broken up. So again, it's that positive attachment is what Theraplay is about. And so it falls into these 4 categories. You've got the structure, which activities are bubbles. Measuring is where you would use a measuring tape, and you might measure the wrist of the child, their circumference of their head, again, your touch, and you're connecting with them and measuring them. And so that's a structure type activity. Patty cake, there are great patty cakes you can do. You can do the patty cake baker's man. I look up that song all the time on YouTube, so I get the words right. So that, again, is an activity to do with kids. There's also other patty cake games on. There's Miss Mary Mac, and lots of fun ones the kids like. Engagement, You know, you're again engaging that child with play. You can roll the ball back and forth. That's another activity, or cars back and forth, besides doing the pillow with the cotton balls on that. Okay, the other two with Theraplay are the nurture. And so nurture, we talked about lotion already. We talked about pillow. The other thing is aluminum foil. You just get a piece about that big and you wrap it around and make like a mold, the caregiver does, of the hand or the foot of the child. And then you kind of take it off as easily as you can, particularly the foot. They love the foot. And then they've got this nice little mold of their foot or their hand. And so they enjoy that a lot. The weather report is, I'm going to have you guys kind of do this with me. So do it like on your desk and just pretend that's the back of a child, that you're the caregiver. So today we're going to do the weather report in St. Paul, Minnesota. So it's very sunny in Minnesota right now. So do a nice sun on your desk. So very sunny in Minnesota. And now there's a little breeze blowing in Minnesota. It's so nice, the breeze. And you're doing this on the back of the child's, the child's back. And now there's some puffy clouds, puffy little clouds that are coming in Minnesota right now. And it's starting to rain in Minnesota. We have a lot of rain coming down. It's raining. And now there's a little bit of lightning going on right now. And oh, the sun is coming out. It's so beautiful out today in Minnesota. And now the flowers are coming up in Minnesota. So that, kids love that one. It's the weather report. And as a therapist, I just direct the parent on movement, what to do. And it's a different way of doing a back rub to a child. So that is a nurturing activity. The challenging ones, which usually I have all these activities take a few minutes. So, I mean, I have a list about 12, but I might do in a session and try and hit each of these categories. And so the last one is challenge, I usually try and do. And so jumping the river, which is one of the favorites, is I have like 2 pieces of yarn strings and I'll put them this maybe far apart on the floor. And I'll say, okay, now mom, dad, when they jump over that, you're going to cheer so loud they can hear you next door. So we're really celebrating and cheering for the child. So they'll jump over and go, yeah, ooh, hallelujah, whatever. And then we'll widen it a little bit and they'll jump over the river again. And so we just widen it to where it's manageable for the child to do. So, and again, mom and dad, our caregiver, all have to cheer really loud, I tell them. And if they're not cheering quite loud, I'm like, we got to cheer loud so they can hear it all the way to whatever, Target. And so they're celebrating, and the kids just love getting that attention, celebration from their parents. And so, again, teaching the parents also about celebrate those small things with kids. Another thing is paper toss. Just squish up a piece of paper and pick a trash can, and let's see if we can toss it in the trash can. The goal is to make it manageable, achievable for the kid. We want them to get a lot in. We want to celebrate when they get in. So all these challenges are about celebrating. And balloons, where you can toss them in the air and you're trying to keep it from touching the floor, and celebrating that staying up in the air. So challenging is about a lot of celebration, a lot of energy is in the room when you're doing the challenge part. Okay. All right. Now, oh, there's the word period. Sorry, we went to that. Okay. So really in summary, when it comes to play therapy, Theraplay, is that, you know, all of these are, you know, researched. They're used great with early childhood, anywhere from age 18 and down. It, as I said, is really going to help with any of those attachments and disorders that are around relationships with kids. And it really helps them as they go into adult life about having relationships and attachments in their adult relationships. Also, during the time of development, you know, they're really, you know, they might have adversities, disruptions. And so, you know, as they go through their lifespan, you know, these are things that are going to help. And, you know, really the most significant relationship in their life as they start is going to be their families. And then they also have their relationships in their community and their cultures. So being able to, be able to have relationships and understand connections with other people. So that, with that is all that I have on different activities for you guys to do today. And I know they're all manageable in the clinic because I do them all the time. And I specialize in 0 to 5. I'm certified in 0 to 5 kids. So I work a lot with kids that age, a lot with autism and ADHD, and all of these activities really help them through therapy and building some skills. And again, those relationships. So that is my presentation. So I know that we wanted to leave time for you guys to ask questions. So either speak up, just take yourself off mute, or I'm going to open up the chat, and please, put things on the chat too.
Susan, Chus, I can open it up with the question as other people think about theirs.
Okay.
For you, how much is play therapy about teaching the parents to play with the child?
As I'm doing the activities, I'm teaching them at the same time about, you can do this at home. How can you do this at home? And what does it help with on that relationship? So it's teaching the parents as you're doing it.
There's a question in the chat. How many sessions would you typically have on average for parent and child coming in for Theraplay?
There isn't really any kind of set that usually they do. In our clinic here, some of them are sporadic. So I may not see them for a couple weeks or something like that. And so it makes it a little bit challenging, but it just kind of builds. You can repeat the same activities, but I try to hit those 4 categories. And so, it's just really however you can get them in. In private practice, I work with kids for a year or so, really helping them with different things.
Another question for you all. Are there any common pitfalls to play therapy? And if there are, what might be some workarounds to that?
I think one thing to play therapy is you do the intake with the parent and child. Well, if I can, I do the parent first so I can get all the presenting concerns. And then, I'll do a session with both. And I try to observe what that relationship looks like. And if that relationship has really got a lot, it's really broken and there needs to be a lot of repair, that the child may not feel comfortable having the parent in there. Sometimes I have to start and just do child only. And then I'll do a lot of the activities. And then I also will share with the parent, here's some things you can try at home. So I think if we really observe what's that relationship, like I said earlier, can the child tolerate touch from the parent? There may be something there that's happened. And, can they really grow and develop with the parent in the room?
I am curious about the participants here and how many of you work in settings that are more integrated, I don't know, PCV8 settings, or is anyone thinking of applications to utilize when you go to a more handoff in an exam room? Are your thoughts going in that direction at all? Or where do you work that, this could be helpful?
Or if you want to put in the chat where you work, type of setting you work in might help too.
PCV8 setting. Okay. Developmental and behavioral pediatrics, PCVH. General pediatrics, family medicine, ped clinic, PCVH. And I'm trying to understand if you have applied any play-based interventions in their PCV8 settings, or any of the things that Susan presented today could be applicable to those settings, or even the trauma with medical procedures resources that I shared. Is there anything that resonates with you guys?
Or maybe one takeaway to help us kind of know what's helpful for you guys. One takeaway maybe from today either. or if you're a play therapist.
I just appreciate the diversity of different ideas because I don't have a lot of training background in doing play therapy per se, but yeah, I think for us, just one sort of small initial barrier would be finding a way to keep the physical materials present and available since we're seeing patients throughout the clinic.
Yeah, I have a canvas bag I keep everything in one of the offices, and I just bring it in what I'm going to use. It'd be nice if we play therapy room. I do in private practice, but I don't at the clinic.
Yeah, in my experience of working with young kids dealing with chronic illness, I apologize, I jumped into the meeting a little late. But I definitely appreciate the conversation on play therapy. In my experience of working with kids dealing with chronic illness, play therapy has been particularly useful in helping that kid give language to some of the anxieties that they might have around interacting with providers or upcoming procedures. Something that they can't fully articulate to even their parents. The parents are concerned about some of the behaviors that they're seeing for their child. And so play has been a really great tool to kind of assist that kid in being able to articulate some of their concerns about what's going on in the office.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great comment. I know some child life specialists, they'll do like the shot or whatever it is on like a bear or something, and then they'll have the child do it also, whatever's getting ready to happen.
There's a few comments in the chat. One, just to summarize, yes, this is really nice to have some interventions that can be used with our families. And yes, these are definitely ideas that I can utilize in my clinic.
Nice.
Well, feel free to reach out to us, if you need some other ideas, I'm willing to give you some ideas too.
In our practices, that our organization has multiple practices that are independently owned. Several clinicians working more on a PCVH model are utilizing that MEC Foundation website to create their vaccine clinics. And I love the initiatives of having an integrated team for the vaccines, working alongside the nurses and the providers to ease the comfort with the vaccines or the throat swabs and all that. And I would love to share for a sec the website itself if you want to see how that looks like. It is, you have resources for procedural pain, acute pain, chronic pain. You have videos of how this goes, but you also have the POC plan available. Some of our practices have incorporated that POC plan that has the full sequence around the vaccines as the kid wants it to happen, to have agency in how the procedure is done. You can have a template pull from here and just utilize that for your clinics. I don't know if you guys deal so much with needle phobia as we do, or fear of needles, even if it's before the needle phobia, but that's a component that I think for those in PCVH is cool to look at.
Susan Chus, would you please put your contact information in the chat? I think it'd be helpful for our audience.
Okay, I sure will. Thank you.
I also have what I mentioned, Tyler, the basics on my cell phone. My stepson had a baby, and I decided to try how that went. So you guys, if you're gonna have babies around, you can try it for yourself before recommending to the parents. And you have wonderful texts about, the peekaboo game, depending on the age, and what does that do for the children. It's a wonderful education app, but also, regulating the stress of the parents and making them feel supported and so on. It's personalized. It gives you can put the baby's name, and it gives you all the messages with the baby name and so on. So that's something also that for those in PCVH would be helpful to show to your PCPs and show the families that you see in the medical appointments, newborn appointments that I know are frequent, at least in our pediatric practice.
Chus and Susan, thank you so much for your presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
You're very
Thank you
welcome.
so much. This was really helpful.
Thank you, Meredith.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye.